happened in Paris was what was happening outside. This was the world's biggest gathering of people passionate about climate change in the history of ever. And this side of it was absolutely beautiful. I've never had the privilege to be in a city so filled with energy, so filled with people, like dreaming and scheming and imagining, like, what does a better world look like and how do we get there? The streets were filled with song, with dance. There were conferences, there were concerts, there were exhibitions, there were debates. There were a group of indigenous people who did a fake trial, putting Exxon on trial for their crimes against humanity. This was a group of indigenous people who held a ceremony one morning, kayaking to sacred drums along the length of a canal in Paris. And so there was this crazy juxtaposition of the diplomats on the inside and the impacted people on the outside. And one story I wanted to share with you is one that comes from the threshold of these two worlds. I was standing one day in the flags of the United Nations. When you kind of walk towards the building, they have a flag of every single country. And that day there was a protest scheduled. And it was a protest of people from the front lines of fracking around the world. This was before I knew that the Isle of Wight had the potential to be one of these communities. I was just an onlooker. And this woman here is Casey Camp Harnick. She's from Oklahoma. She's a Ponca woman. And a microphone was held open that day for anyone that wanted to share their story. And her words will never leave me. And so I wanted to share them with you right now. And just, I guess, first to say that her worldview is very different to many of ours. To grow up as an indigenous person in the occupied territory of the United States of America is a really different experience, maybe, than most of us have had. And so I ask that you listen to an open mind with what she had to say. I'm a Ponca woman. I live in an area of fracking where we have become the earthquake capital of the world. This year alone, there were 5,000 earthquakes in Oklahoma. 5,000 times the earth has shuddered because her bones are being crushed and manipulated. And beneath her flesh, 1 to 2 miles deep, where the earthquakes are happening, is a whole series of spiderweb that is called pipeline, full of filth, full of ugliness. Every day when the earth shakes, every day when she reminds us of her life, the water, the blood, her systems are also poisoned. At this point, she turns to point at the UN. So we hold them responsible. We hold them responsible for making the decisions for 7 generations to come. That is us. That is our philosophy. That is our way of understanding that for 7 generations behind us, they have prayed us into being. They've cared for our mother, the earth. Those that have cherished the seas, that gave life, that gave plants, that cherished the 4 legs, gave them whatever they could so that we could all sustain life. Those that have cherished the very blood we call water that is life itself. So we need to realign ourselves to understand what is power. What is power? It's not human beings, but each one of us together can make a difference. All of us together, collectively, can change what is. But those in there, they are human beings too. They are only here for one cycle of life, but they are not thinking 7 generations down the way. They are only thinking of what's going to be that dollar bill and how that imaginary thing they call money is going to go in their future. I don't know what their heaven is. I don't understand it, for I live in a paradise. I live in a place where the grass grows and loves me. I live in a place where the moon rises at night and shows me such beauty. I can feel the rhythm within her as she helps my heart to beat. I can see the star nation through this fog that they call pollution. I also see these relatives here that are ready to rain. I just felt a little drop. I can feel the beauty in the sky, and yet there's a thing called carbon trading. It baffles me. It baffles me how they can imagine things like money, how they can imagine buying and selling the air, how they can imagine stabbing the ugliness into the earth and sucking from her. So we will pray today. We'll pray for those natural things that give life. We'll pray for the mother sun that brings the warmth that made us alive to share this moment. We'll pray for the moon mother that she continues to move us and show our rhythms within one another. We'll pray for that sacred water, that water of life, will continue to have clarity and strength and health, because she, the water, contains all of life. That's where we all began, within the womb of our own mother. We'll pray for the sacred fire that warms us and makes our body feel the heat. We'll pray, as my friend, for the oil that smooths the joints within the bones of our mother the earth, because the oil is not the guilty one. The oil is victim as well, and so is the gas. We'll pray for this thread. Our mother is not for sale. We love her dearly. She loves us and has nurtured us. So we draw from that strength. And when we together, all of us together, we say, no more fracking. No more fracking. That went on for a while. She ended her speech with a warrior call. And all of the other Indigenous women that were in this huge crowd gathered together. And they held themselves arm in arm, and they started to dance and to sing songs of life. And I just began to sob. I was completely overcome with the damage that our culture has done to theirs over centuries, over the damage we've done to ourselves, to the earth. I was, for the first time, really allowing myself to feel the grief of what was happening here, what was being negotiated here, how serious this situation was. And I was just completely broken over. Which was a really bizarre experience, to start sobbing and suddenly have like 10 TV cameras on you, because I guess they thought it was nice that I was crying. So I guess my last question for us, sorry I've gone on for so long, is how do we respond? In the midst of unprecedented crisis, how do we as individuals respond? Do we keep our heads down? Do we keep on keeping on? Do we hope that these facts, these ideas will just go away? Or do we want to stand up and be counted as part of the greatest transition that humanity has the potential to have ever undertaken? I believe that when we step up to what science and justice demands of us, that we actually find ourselves stepping into our true selves. That was what I heard on my journey time and time again. For 6 months, everyone we met who has ever gotten involved with standing up for their community, with resisting fossil fuels, with creating a new world, has said that that was the best decision they ever made. That it had changed their life for the better and given them a sense of meaning they had never known. So last week, I took a walk on the footpath that's right next to the site in Ayrton where they want to drill. And I stood there crying once again. I've become quite emotional these past few months. And I thought to myself that as individuals, we only ever have impact over one tiny slice of history. But this is our chance as citizens of the Isle of Wight. The question is being posed of us. What do we want the next era of humanity to look like? This well, this proposal here on the Isle of Wight, is our chance to tell that new story, to tell that story that Thomas Berry suggested, that he called the Ecozoic era. And that's the story that I'm choosing to step into, and so I'd love to invite all of you to join me in that.